She's just playing to the chairs. That's what the janitor mumbled as he turned off the cafeteria lights, not realizing she was still standing on stage. It was 7:41 p.m. The auditorium was empty almost. The folding chairs sat in their crooked rows, still warm from the school assembly. Outside, night had already fallen, and most students had gone home, all except one. In the shadows, a girl stood beneath a single stage light. Her violin was cracked, her bow fraying. She tightened the last string with fingers worn from practicing in silence. And then, without warning, she began to play. Not for a grade, not for applause, but because she needed to. The janitor turned around slowly, frozen in place. Even the hum of the vending machine seemed to go quiet, because the sound that came from that stage, it wasn't what anyone expected. It wasn't school music, it was grief, hope, a storm. And for the first time in 12 years, the invisible girl wasn't invisible anymore. Thank you for being here. Sometimes, the smallest moments carry the greatest meaning. Today's story is one of those. Quiet, powerful, and worth remembering. If it touches your heart, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. And if you'd like more stories like this, you're warmly invited to subscribe and tap the bell so you won't miss the next one. Now, let's take a closer look at what really happened. By the time you noticed her, it was too late. Not because she did anything wrong, but because she had already disappeared into the background again. Her name was Melody Jameson, 12 years old, thin frame, tightly pulled back braids, eyes that never quite met yours unless they had to. Every morning at Harborview Middle School, Melody would slip through the back gate 5 minutes early. Her shoes made no sound. Her books were stacked just right, and tucked under her arm, always, was a worn, black violin case that looked like it had traveled through 4 generations. Most kids assumed it was a prop. She never opened it during lunch. She never talked about orchestra. She never even touched the school's music room. And, every day, the case was with her. Like armor, like memory, like she was waiting for something no one else could see. The teachers called her quiet. The other kids used different words. Weird, creepy, mute. She wasn't mute, of course. She just didn't waste words on people who wouldn't understand. When she did speak, it was soft, controlled. You could miss it if you blinked. She wasn't angry. She wasn't even sad. She was waiting, watching, enduring. Mrs. Cartwright, the school's overworked music teacher, once asked Melody during roll call, "Do you even play that thing, sweetheart?" Melody simply nodded. The teacher chuckled and moved on. But from the back of the room, Braden McGill, class clown and accidental leader of every whispered insult, muttered just loud enough, "Yeah, right, bet she plays Twinkle Twinkle in a closet." The class laughed. Melody didn't flinch. She'd learned how to stay still, the way her grandfather had taught her, the way a soldier waits for the right moment to return fire. The truth. Melody did play that violin, but not for them. She played at night, in the bedroom she shared with her little brother, in the hallway after their mom fell asleep from another long shift at the clinic, in the alley behind their apartment, where she once taped a single microphone to the chain link fence to hear herself echo. She didn't play school music. She played pain, and blues, and memory. In her old neighborhood, back when her grandpa was alive, they called it secondhand soul. Melody had inherited every note he ever taught her, and every silence he ever lived through. He was a Vietnam vet, a blues violinist, and a man who always said the most dangerous person in the world was a quiet black girl with a story. Melody was his shadow, and now, in a school that didn't remember his name, she was ready to speak without speaking. The catalyst came during assembly week. Every spring, the school put on a talent showcase, mostly comedy skits, pop songs, and cheer routines. The music teacher stood up in front of the 8th grade class and, with a dramatic sigh, asked, "Anyone else brave enough to get on stage? Last chance to embarrass yourselves." Braden raised his hand. "Melody's got a violin. Why not give her a solo?" Everyone turned. Even the teacher chuckled. "Oh, didn't know we had a prodigy hiding in plain sight." There it was, mockery dressed in politeness, the kind that didn't bruise the skin but left marks anyway. Melody looked up, not smiling, not frowning, just still. Then, Softly, I'll play. The class stopped breathing for a second. Even Braden blinked. Wait, what? Melody repeated it. I'll play. No one knew what to say. The silence was louder than the laughter had been. And then the teacher, trying to save face, nodded with a tight smile. Well, all right, then. Wednesday it is. Don't forget your little friend. She tapped the violin case. Melody didn't reply. She didn't have to. The countdown had already begun. That night at home, Melody set the violin case on the floor and opened it gently, like a casket. Inside was the same violin her grandfather gave her the day he died. It still smelled like cedar. Still had the carved initials inside the bridge, T.J. Thomas Jameson. She tightened the strings, checked the bow, ran her fingers across the neck with reverence like a ritual. Then she pulled out a blank piece of sheet music and began to write. Not a song, a testimony. Outside the window, her little brother Andra was asleep on the couch. A cartoon hummed in the background. In the next room, their mom, Gloria Jameson, lay curled under a weighted blanket, unaware that her daughter was about to change her life in front of a crowd that never saw her coming. Melody stood in the kitchen. No shoes. Just socks on old linoleum. And played the first few notes in the key of heartbreak. It wasn't perfect. But it was real. And that was all it needed to be. The day of the assembly came cold and bright. March sunlight. Sharp wind. The kind of morning that makes your breath show, even indoors. Melody walked into Harborview Middle carrying her violin like always, but this time, people noticed. It wasn't that she looked different. Same hoodie. Same backpack. Same quiet eyes. It was that for once, people were looking. In the hallway, Braden passed her near the lockers and smirked. You sure you want to do this? Melody didn't stop walking. He kept going. Cool. Just don't cry when they start booing. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. In the green room backstage, the noise was electric. Kids in glittery dance outfits giggled. The principal adjusted the mic stand. Teachers scurried with clipboard checklists and crumpled programs. And in the far corner, alone, Melody sat cross-legged on the floor, tuning her violin by ear. She hadn't brought sheet music. She didn't need it. She was playing from something older than notes. Older than the auditorium itself. At exactly 7:17 a.m., the show began. The auditorium buzzed with middle school energy. Rows of students waved at friends on stage. Phones hid in laps under jackets. Teachers wore tired smiles, clapping on rhythm, nodding politely. Dance groups, skit teams, a nervous seventh grader reciting a monologue from Hamilton. Applause, laughter, eye rolls. The usual. Then came the last name on the list. And now, our final performer, Melody Jameson. There was an audible pause. As if the crowd had to ask itself, wait, who? And then she walked on stage. Alone, carrying nothing but a worn violin and a bow held together with black tape. No background music. No introduction. No smile. Just a girl with a story. And no interest in explaining it. The spotlight flickered once, steadied, and held her in place. And then she raised her bow and played. At first, it was soft. Not shaky soft, a low hum, like wind sliding beneath a church door. Then came the pulse. A blues rhythm that didn't belong in a school auditorium. Something smoky. Gritty human. The back row kids stopped whispering. The front row teachers stopped grading papers. One by one phones were raised. But no one was laughing. Because what came out of that violin? It wasn't classical. It wasn't pop. It was memory. It was pain. It was a grandmother's sigh and a soldier's grief, and a little girl's quiet rage, all twisted into one rising note. And then silence, one clean pause, so sharp it made the room inhale. And in that breathless stillness, Melody changed key. She slid into something wild. Something that made the janitor, leaning on his mop near the back wall, put a hand to his chest. He had heard that sound once. A long time ago. From a blues club in Mobile, Alabama, where Melody's grandfather used to play for $10 and 2 cigarettes. Back on stage, she played like she'd bled for it. Like every joke, every sideways glance, every lunch alone had turned to fire inside her. Braden, slouched in row 4, sat upright without realizing it. Mrs. Cartwright blinked 3 times, her grading pen hovering in midair. The principal forgot to monitor the clock. When Melody hit the final note, it didn't end like a performance. It ended like a warning, a line drawn in silence. And then she lowered her bow, turned, and walked off stage. No bow, no smile. No, thank you exit. Clean and quiet, like thunder rolling away. The applause. It came late, started small, then spread. Not because they understood her music, but because they knew they had just witnessed something that didn't ask for their approval. It just demanded they feel it. Backstage, no one spoke as Melody packed up. She zipped the case, slung it over her shoulder, and stepped out into the hallway before anyone remembered to stop her. She didn't go to her next class. She didn't need to. Her work was done. But word spread. By lunch, the video had already hit 12 phones. By eighth period, it was on the school's internal server. That night, her music teacher called her house and left a voicemail. Melody, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Gloria Jameson, Melody's mother, came home that evening to find her daughter asleep on the couch with the violin case still buckled tight beside her. She didn't wake her. She just pulled a blanket over her shoulders and whispered into the quiet. Daddy would have been proud. By Thursday morning, Melody couldn't take 2 steps through the halls without hearing whispers. But they weren't like before. They weren't mocking. They were searching, curious, as if the same kids who used to pretend she didn't exist were now desperate to understand where she'd come from. Yo, that was you on the violin. Are you, like, famous now? Can I see your sheet music? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Because the truth was, she hadn't played for them. She'd played for every kid who never got picked, for every quiet desk in the back, for the chair no one sat with at lunch. She'd played for herself. And yet, change had a way of sneaking up on her. In music class, Mrs. Cartwright paused mid-roll call and looked directly at her. Melody. A pause. I hope you'll consider playing in our spring showcase. A week ago, it would have sounded like a joke. Now the whole room was watching. Melody nodded once. Quiet, sharp, enough. Later that day, she found something new in her locker. Folded neatly between her notebooks and math worksheets was a note, written in blue pen. Careful, unsure handwriting. I used to laugh. I'm sorry. You made me cry instead. In a good way. T.S. A Braden. He didn't say it aloud. Didn't have to. Melody folded the note and put it in the side pocket of her violin case. She didn't forgive him completely. But she saw something shift. And maybe that was enough. At home, her little brother Andre kept replaying the video. Mom says you're on YouTube now, he said, eyes wide. I think you should go on Ellen. Melody smiled, just a little, then picked up the violin. Want to hear the part I forgot? He nodded. She played again, but this time it was soft, sweet, like breathing. 2 weeks passed, then 3. The world didn't explode. She wasn't handed a scholarship or called by Juilliard. She still took the bus, still ate leftovers, still studied in the kitchen with a wobbly chair. But the next time someone asked her name, they remembered it. One Tuesday afternoon, as Melody walked home from school, a woman stepped out of a corner bookstore and said, "Are you that girl with the violin?" Melody hesitated, then nodded. The woman smiled and held out a business card. My husband runs the community jazz center. He'd like to meet you. We're doing an open session this Saturday. Just come. No pressure. Melody took the card, didn't say anything, but she felt something stir, deep in her chest. Possibility. That night, she sat on her porch while the city lights blinked far below. She opened the violin case and found her grandfather's old shoulder rest tucked inside. She didn't remember packing it, but it was there, like he'd been listening the whole time. The next morning, she stood at the bus stop. Braden was there. He didn't say much, just nodded once. You're good, he muttered. Melody looked at him, held his gaze for the first time, and replied, I know. Every school year fades eventually. The hallways empty out. The announcements grow shorter. The yearbooks get passed around, full of scribbled goodbyes that will be forgotten by August. But some things don't fade. Some things etch themselves into the building, like they were always meant to be there. Melody Jameson became one of those things. She didn't join the jazz center right away. She didn't post videos or chase likes. She just kept playing. In stairwells, at veterans' homes, sometimes in the back pew of her mother's church, Late on Saturdays, when no one else was around, she played for people who needed to remember something soft or forget something sharp. And her music, it carried the ache of a girl who'd lived on the edge of silence, and the pride of one who chose not to stay there. A few months later, Harborview Middle hosted its first ever student-led music night. The principal called it an evening of unexpected voices. The closing act, Melody. This time she brought a chair and sat in the middle of the stage. No spotlight, no microphone, just her and the violin. She played a song she never named, half blues, half classical. The melody changed midstream, just once, like a memory relearning itself. And when it ended, the crowd didn't clap. Not at first, because they needed a second, just to breathe. After the show, a teacher asked her, "Where'd you learn to play like that?" Melody thought for a second, then said, "By listening to the things people don't say." The years later, long after the stage lights dimmed and the lockers were cleaned out and Braden went off to community college, there was still a photo in the school hallway, a candid shot. Melody with her violin tucked under her arm, walking home in a hoodie, eyes straight ahead, and underneath, a small engraved plaque, "To the girl who played the truth." People still ask how it happened, how someone so quiet, so invisible, ended up silencing a whole room. But that's the wrong question. It didn't happen all at once. It wasn't a surprise. It was the sound of someone finally being heard, after a lifetime of whispering. So if you ever find yourself in a room full of noise, mockery, dismissal, silence too loud to ignore, remember her. And if no one will listen, play anyway. Play your truth. Because sooner or later, someone will hear it, and they won't forget. Sometimes the loudest voice in the room is the one that never needed to shout. Melody Jameson didn't raise her hand. She didn't ask for permission. She didn't fight back with fists or words. She simply played and let the truth carry itself. This story is not just about talent. It's about dignity. About how quiet strength can speak louder than cruelty. About how one moment of honesty, one trembling note, can reset the way an entire room listens. So the next time you feel small, or unseen, or unheard, don't wait for permission. Just play. And let your truth echo. Someone will hear it. Someone always does. If this story touched something in you, if you saw a bit of yourself, or someone you love, in Melody's silence, we'd be honored to hear from you in the comments below. Your voice matters here. And if you'd like more stories like this, stories that whisper, stories that stay, please take a moment to subscribe and tap that little bell. We don't post often, but when we do, it's worth listening to. Thank you for listening. We'll see you soon.